Hi guys, welcome to episode number 57 of Microsoft ERP Beginners Tutorial Series. In the today's episode, we are going to get started with the inventory management module in Microsoft Dynamics 365. So in all our previous episodes, that is until 56th episodes, we've only covered about the inbound scenarios, that is the vendor collaboration, vendor management, vendor master record, vendor posting profile, product information management, and some of the basic setups in the legal entity. So we've only covered focusing the procurement process on vendors and vendor posting profile. From today's episode, we are going to start with our inventory management topics. So the first area or first point to start our inventory management topic is going to be discussion on the site and the warehouse. So with that note, let's get into the episode. So now we will be getting started with our inventory management module, and we will be exploring all the options that you see on the screen, right from the inbound order, outbound order, journal entries, quality management, until all the areas that you see here in the screen within the inventory management module. So in order for me to get started with the inventory management module, the first step is the configuration of the site and the warehouse, which is available under the inventory breakdown. We have already created a couple of sites and the warehouse for the sake of creation, for the sake of proceeding with the purchase processes for our some of our previous episodes. We did so many purchase order. Just for the sake of performing transactions, we have created a site and the warehouse already in this particular legal entity. But however, now we will just do a little bit of deep dive into what is a site, what is a warehouse, and what are the options available in there. And from there, we will get started with the inventory management module. So with that, let's get started. So before I go ahead and create a site and the warehouse within the inventory management module, let me explain what is a site and the warehouse. And one more thing is, um, today's focus is going to be the site, warehouse, and location within the inventory management module. Okay, but we will again come back to the same discussion of site, warehouse, and location while we discuss about the advanced warehouse management. Okay, even in the advanced warehouse management, we again have the similar site, warehouse, and location option, location wizard, and so many other things like location profile, location directives, and etc. uh, but that is something that is for discussion in some of our later episodes. So first we need to be familiar with the normal inventory management process, warehouse locations. Once we are having a good hands-on with our inventory management module, then we will get started with the advanced warehouse management module. So we will come back to the concept of site, warehouse, location, location format, location types, everything again when we start our discussion within the advanced warehouse management module. So before getting creating a site and warehouse, let me try to explain you what is a site and the warehouse. As a beginner, it is a very important master record in the system. The creation of a site is very easy. All you need to do is just to key in the site code and description, as simple as that. You do not have any other mandatory field for creation of a site. It could be very simple, but this is a very important master record because it's a mandatory field in most of the transactions related with the inbound area, outbound area, and production, etc. So what is a site? Um, a site is a non-tangible thing. It is firstly doesn't have an address, or it's not a physical building. It is just a geographical location. Example, the circle that you see in the map is the site in my company. So I name it in the system as DC1, distribution center 1. So likewise, my country could have multiple, or my region could have multiple sites. So it could be named as distribution center 2, distribution center 3, etc., based on the requirement. And every single site that I define in the system could also have its associated warehouses. Every site can have hundreds, 200s, or n number of warehouses. There's no restriction on number of warehouses each of the sites should have. So each of this site could be linked with a specific, sorry, each of the site could have its associated warehouses. For example, the distribution center 1 has a warehouse, central warehouse 1, central warehouse 2, distribution warehouse 1, etc. Likewise, your site 2 and site 3 may also have different sets of warehouse associated with it. So this particular warehouse are physical buildings, and they do have their own address, etc. And this is where we are going to create the locations, and this is where we will be defining our aisles, our rake, our shelf, bins, etc. will be defined within every single warehouse. So that is the high level concept of site and warehouse. So now let's get into the system and quickly create a site. So inventory breakdown, site, click on new. As I mentioned, just the site code and the name. These are the two mandatory things for creation of a site. Nothing else is needed. It's very simple. So let me just follow the same example and create a DC1 as the site, and distribution center is the name. So inside the site we have other options like order entry, deadline group. I will do a separate episode shortly about the order entry deadline. The summary of this is we can have a cutoff time and the start time and the end time for a specific site, and you can define those times within the order entry deadline within the inventory management module. You can define it based on all site or specific site or group of site. So if you're defining based on a group of site, this is where you need to create the order entry deadline group and tag. So let's say that I'm trying to keying in a time where my site will be open at 8 a.m. and it will be closing at 5 p.m. or 4 p.m., let's say for example, and I'm trying to enter a new sales order at 4:30 p.m. and I'm trying to find the delivery date of the sales order, assuming that the item is in stock already. You will see that um, the expected delivery for that particular item in the sales order line will be tomorrow, not today, because you already exceeded the order entry deadline. Let's say I'm doing the same sales order at 3 o'clock, and you will see when you simulate the delivery date, you will see that the delivery date of the sales order will be showing today's date because you're still within the order entry deadline time range. So these are some of the features available in D365. We will explore this with an example in a separate episode. This is just an heads up for you guys. So that's about the order entry deadline group. And likewise, this is something which we have to discuss during our master planning module discussion. So during the master planning process, the master planning automatically creates some planned transfer orders and transfer journals. So if I turn this on, whenever you need to refill a specific warehouse, that is whenever the refill needs to happen between two warehouses, the system automatically creates some planned transfer order or transfer journal. If I turn this on, the system instead of transfer order always creates a transfer journal. We will discuss all of that in detail during the master planning discussion. And this is a time zone mostly associated with the same topic of order entry deadline. So again, we will discuss it in a separate episode. And as I mentioned before, the site is a non-tangible thing. So not always we mention an address, but you can maybe specify a pin code if required. But normally we do not add any address for the site. And this is just a hierarchy. So at the moment I have not saved this, so I'm not having any hierarchy for the DC1. Shortly, when we create a DC1 warehouse for DC1, you will see an hierarchy like DC1 and the warehouse under the DC1, just a visual representation of the site and the warehouses. And this tab here is completely for the advanced warehouse management. This is where we define our default inventory status. We'll discuss all of that later during the advanced warehouse management discussion. So the site is very straightforward. It's very simple. So as soon as I hit the save button, the site code will be disabled. See, if I hit on save, I will not be able to change the site code anymore. Maybe I can delete it and create a new site because there's no transaction associated with this site. But if there is a transaction already made with this site, I will not even be able to delete it. So before hitting the save, if you want to make any changes to the site code, you should be mindful and do the changes before. So that's the site for you. So the next one is the warehouse. So just get into the same path, inventory management breakdown, inventory breakdown, uh, warehouse. So let's create our warehouse, which is central warehouse 1. Central warehouse 1. Let me copy the text. Okay, and it's mandatory for us to mention the site because every warehouse needs to be tagged to a site, so it's going to be tagged to the DC1 site. So before you hit on the save button, you should make sure you choose the type, because as soon as I hit on the save button, the type will be disabled. If you're creating a normal warehouse, it's always needs to be default. So this is going to be a main warehouse, so it will be definitely default. But there are other two options like a quarantine warehouse or a transit warehouse. So the quarantine warehouse is, I choose the type as quarantine warehouse is when I'm trying to set up a quarantine warehouse in the system, meaning we might sometime implement a concept or a topic called quality management, which is available, where all your incoming parts needs to where we perform some arrival inspection on it using the quality management features available in D365. So whenever we fail the the inspection for a specific part, then the damaged part will be stored separately away from the bulk location or the regular storage location, because it needs to be returned back or needs to be scrapped and informed to the vendor. So that specific storage location is called as a quarantine warehouse. So we can create a quarantine warehouse or a special place within our main warehouse where you store all those damaged goods. So we will do a deep dive into the quarantine warehouse concepts while we are getting into the quality management module. Um, and another concept is the transit warehouse. That is when you are trying to example, let me go back to the PPT. Example, in some cases you would like to transfer the stock from CW1 to CW2 warehouse, because CW2 needs some stock, it's urgent, and CW2 do not want to go to the vendor because the lead time when he goes to the vendor is too much. This warehouse is so near, so it's better for CW to get the stock refilled from the CW1. So we might do some transfers between these two warehouse. So the stock will be sent from this warehouse, so it will be detected from this warehouse and it will be received within this warehouse, so it will be received within this particular warehouse. So stock will reduce here and stock will increase here, right? So if the warehouse are quite um, nearby, then there is no need of any transit process. But let's say if you want to do the transfer of stock between the warehouse 2 and the distribution warehouse 1, right? So they are very far away from each other. It could even take a day for the stock to reach from here to here. So until I receive the stock here, the stock is gone from this warehouse but still not been accounted within this warehouse. The stock is in transit. So in such cases, if you want to keep track of your inventory stock while it is in transit, you might need to create a virtual warehouse called as a transit warehouse to represent your stock within a van, right? So such warehouse are called as a transit warehouse that needs to be created in the system. So So while you're creating a transit warehouse, you need to choose the type as transit. For now, I'm not creating either a quarantine warehouse or transit warehouse. They are the regular warehouse. So I'm going to choose the default option. So once we later create a quarantine or a transit warehouse, you need to tag them here. So system automatically senses if there are any failure while receiving the stock within this warehouse. System now knows the quarantine warehouse, so it will automatically transfer the failed goods into the quarantine warehouse. And likewise, while I'm trying to transfer the stock between CW1 to maybe CS2, system now knows what is going to be the transit warehouse because it will be tagged here. So the stock will be automatically be in the transit warehouse until it is received within the CS2. So we will look into the transit warehouse in detail while we discuss about differences between the transfer order and transfer journal in maybe a couple of episodes later. Okay, so do not worry about them for now. For now, this is a regular warehouse, so I'm going to choose the type as default. So just as soon as I hit on save, this default will be grayed out. I will no more be having an option to change the warehouse type. And these are again the options which are used regularly during the master planning. We'll cover during the master planning process. And inventory and warehouse management. So these two things are also not mandatory, but they are important to understand. Um, During the inventory management process or within an inventory, we could have a inbound dock and outbound dock, that is a receiving location and outbound location. So whenever you are implementing inventory management, you will normally have a small inventory with the limited locations. So normally whenever you are receiving your stock, you will always receive it in a one location, which is a receiving location. And while you are issuing the stock to the customer, you always issue it from one of your picking location or one of your specific dedicated location to deliver it to the customer. So those locations are tagged here. So every time you create a purchase order, and if your item within a purchase order is a location dimension tracked, that is a storage dimension location tracked, so you do not need to manually key in the location in every single purchase order. Rather, you can just mention it here. The location will be defaulted into the purchase order. Likewise, in every single sales order, if you know that all the items of a specific type will be only be issued from one location because you do not have many options in your inventory, in such cases you can tag your issue location here, so all your sales order will default with the location over here. So that is the default receipt and default issue location. So now let's create inbound and an outbound location and tag them here so that we can use them for some of our scenarios in future. So before I go ahead and create a location, let me try to give you um, a overview or a background about different kinds of locations that are available within a warehouse. So all these location concepts are extremely important during the advanced warehouse management discussion, but I just wanted to give you an overview now. So this is the the layout of the warehouse. Um, so this is how generally the warehouse layout looks like. This is kind of a very big warehouse. This kind of a warehouse definitely needs advanced warehouse management to be implemented. So these two trucks that is parked over here are the inbound trucks. So they are bringing in the goods into the warehouse from the vendor. So this is a inbound area, and this is the outbound area. So from here, the outbound trucks which are parked here are going straight to the customer to deliver the goods. Okay. So as soon as the goods come in, you need to park the goods in a staging in a specific area. We can call them as the in-dock location or a receiving location. So this is the area where you take out the stock and park them and unpack them and keep them or process them for the put away process to start. And the forklift like this would come and pick the parts from the receiving location and later put them into the bulk location. Bulk location is so huge like this. So the bulk location could have thousands of location IDs thousands of aisles and rack and shelf and the bins. So every single rack and bins and this are all having a location ID normally. Okay, so bulk location will have hundreds of location ID within it. And we also keep some of the stock from the bulk location in the picking area, where we can do some assembly of the stock. And then later, uh, whenever the picking area is getting below the safety stock or getting below a certain level, you can replenish the picking area from the bulk location. Okay, so from the picking area you do some assembly. And there could be multiple scenarios where you're directly, picking from the picking area and putting it in the door bay. That is, this is the loading area, so, or outbound area. So you pick from here and put it here, and then it will go out for the customer. Or in some cases you need to do some complex operation, like you pick from the picking location and then it goes into the packing location. So you pick from here and you put away into the packing location, and some special packing happens here. And then again you pick from here and you put away into the um, bay door area or outbound area, and you keep it ready for the customer to load it and deliver it to the customer. So this is the picking location, and this is the packing location, and this is the bay door or the loading area. Okay, so this is the high level overview of all the locations that are available within a warehouse. So during the advanced warehouse discussion or advanced warehouse management episodes, we will be covering every single location available here. But since we are starting with the inventory management discussion, we are not going to do it uh, do everything in a go. We definitely only need the receiving location and the loading area and a couple of bulk locations to start with. Okay, so let me only create them for time being. So let me go back now to the system. So this is where you need to put your location. So I can either right click and directly go to the view details section, or the full path is again go to the inventory management module, um, inventory breakdown and inventory location. So before creating a location, it's definitely required to create aisles. um, so let me show you. If I just try to create a location, let's say click on new, you definitely need a warehouse, because you need to know, the system needs to know which warehouse the location belongs to. So just definitely need a warehouse to be selected, and you see that you definitely need an aisle um, to be defined here. And in the system we do not have any aisles yet, so we need to first create an aisle before creating a inventory location. So let me delete this, create an aisle and come back to the location. So why do we need an aisle before creating a location is because let me go back to my PPT. It's because um, so this is a, let's say, a bulk location. So let me zoom into this particular bulk location. It looks something like this, right? This is a general inventory structure, the warehouse structure. So this is the aisle. So this, you can imagine your supermarket having so many aisles where you take your trolley and you walk in your aisle and you do the shopping, and you have the shelves on both the sides. So it's something similar. So a warehouse may have 10 or 15 aisles, and on both the sides of every aisle you will have the shelf, right? So this is something we call it as aisle. And um, this is the shelf, that is the rows. These are all shelves, shelf A, shelf B, C and D. And the columns over here, this entire thing is normally called as rake. So this is rack 1, 2, and this is rack 3. And this entire this column, This is rack 4, 5, 6, and so on. And on the palette, you have a dedicated locations here, right? So each of this are all called as bins, right? So in order to represent a location so that it's easier for my warehouse picker to exactly understand the location of the part, directly go there with the forklift, pick it and put in the picking area. In order to do this very fast, you need to have your location ID with a combination of all of this. Example, IL01, so A01, shelf A, so A01, SA, rec 3, so R3, B01. So A1 SAR3 B01 could be the name or location ID of this particular location. So likewise, you will have thousands of location IDs created within a bulk location, so your warehouse picker can quickly understand what is the location code or exactly the stock or a part is in which location. So that's why you definitely need to mention the aisle code before you create a location. So let me go back now to the system and create a aisle. So inventory breakdown, inventory aisles, new, you need to specify the warehouse code, and then let me name it as A01. Okay, this is my first aisle. Likewise, I may have 9 aisles in my warehouse structure. I can define them all here. So for now I'm just going to do start with only one. So save it. That's the first thing. And now you can go to the location and start creating locations. So go there, click on new, choose the warehouse, choose the aisle. Okay, so the location is disabled. Okay, that's because there are two scenarios here for creating location. One is the location ID will be generated automatically based on the combination of rec, shelf, and bin. I will do it little later. So my first scenario is going to be manual location creation. Okay, so this is very handy, or this scenario is very much useful for creating your receiving location or bay door location, because they might have a unique name and you do not want to follow the automated serial number. Customer may want to follow a specific name from the legacy system. So those locations could be, lesser than 50 or lesser than 40 or something. So it's more easier for us to manually create them, so that you have a flexibility to define your own name, right? So I prefer doing it manually, or maybe using the data management um, that is the data entity to load them if they are really really huge. But if they are lesser than 50 or 100, I just create it manually. So let me just create a indoc location, which is going to be my receiving location where all my goods will be received. So indoc location type is going to be, if you see, you notice you have all the location that we have just discussed: bulk location, picking, inbound, outbound. So this is going to be the inbound dock, so inbound location. Yeah, so it's a first location I've created manually. So now let me create another location for the warehouse, CS1, and L1, manual, out dock. Okay, and that's going to be the outbound location type. So these are the two locations that I need at the moment. So let me go back to the the warehouse, and tag the inbound dock and tag the outbound dock as well. Okay, so now let's explore the second method of location creation, where you want your location ID to be generated automatically by the system, right? So that could be very useful for creating some bulk locations, because as I mentioned, the bulk location may have so many different location IDs, right? So for that, what I'm going to do is invent location names, right? So we have a tab within the warehouse. So I'm going to enable them all. Okay, I'm going to enable them all. And you need to be mindful because the location can only be 10 digits. So you can say how many digits of rake or shelf bin you want as a part of your serial number structure. So I'm going to say that for rake, um, in the inventory, I normally have, let's say, within 100. I do not have more than 100. So maybe only 2 digits is required for me. So I'm going to just put a hyphen and hash hash. So it will only take 2 digits. Uh, Shelves, I only have, let's say, 9 shelves. So not even greater than 9. So one digit is enough for me. So I'm only going to put one hash. Bins, I have hundreds, so it's definitely greater than 100. So I need to put 3 hash. At least I need 3 digits. So let me just put a hyphen and put 3 hashes here. So this is how my location ID is going to look like. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 digits is only allowed. So exactly I have 10 digits, and this is actually my aisles, and this is a combination of rack and shelf, and this is going to be the bin. So this is how my location is going to be serial numbered. um so let me save it. And one more thing I forgot to do is, since it's a warehouse, you definitely need an address. So let me quickly create an address before I um, create a location. So uh, delivery hub for CW1. Okay, that's going to be the address title. And let me just quickly choose a pin code. Okay, so that's just the primary address for my warehouse. It's done. So now if I go back to the inventory location, and I'm going to try creating some bulk location. So as soon as I click on new and choose the warehouse and the aisle, the location ID is generated automatically, and it's going to be the bulk location. And you can even define the height and width and depth of the specific location ID if needed. I'm not going to do that now. Okay, now let's go back to our warehouse and quickly tag the quarantine warehouse and transit warehouse, because we may need to use this warehouse for our future episodes for discussing about the transfer order, transfer journal, and quality management. So let's also tag those warehouses so that it's easier for us to proceed with our next episodes. So let me create a very quick quarantine warehouse. CWQ, it's a quarantine warehouse. um, Let me just copy that, and the site is this one. And the one difference is you need to change it from default to quarantine, and this will disable because it's not a regular warehouse. Save it, go back to your main warehouse, and make sure you tag it here. Save it, and let's create one more transit warehouse. Oops, sorry. Intransit. Okay, and tag the site. That's a transit one. Again, this will disable. Go back to his main warehouse and tag the transit warehouse here. So we are almost done with our site and the warehouse setup. We completed it. This is more than enough for us to start our inventory management transactions using our warehouse CS1. Maybe in future we'll also create one more warehouse or use the existing ones for demonstrating the different journals in the system. So in the future episodes, we'll be now using this warehouse for our inventory adjustments, counting journals, for our transfer journals, transfer orders, item arrival journal, or there are many other journals which are available. We'll be covering all of them, like movement journal and etc. And one more thing I just want to keep in mind is we did see the manual location creation process, or we can even import the location through a data management process. But when you use an advanced warehouse management, if I go to the advanced warehouse management, as I already mentioned during the beginning of this episode, we will again come back to the site, warehouse, and location concept. So, in the advanced warehouse management, we have something called as a location setup wizard, right? So, this wizard will also guide you to create so many bulk locations in the system. So, in order for us to make this work, we need to do so many other setup related with the location. All those are related with the advanced warehouse management, like location profile, location type, location formats. All these are required before we get started with a location setup wizard. So that is something that we will be talking about in detail during our advanced warehouse management episode. So just have this in mind for now. We still need to explore further on the locations, but for now, for inventory management, this is how we normally create locations. So that's it for today's episode. See you again in another episode with a new topic.